Hi! Hi guys, and welcome back to Mindful Mischief. My name is Kari Hovermale, school counselor and the host leading episode 6 here on the podcast. Joining me are my two co-hosts, Mrs. Lisa Feitz, our school psychologist, and Dr. Ernesto Martinez. Did I say that wrong? You looked at me just so funny.
I was ready for you to say hi, friends.
Hi, friends.
Hi, friends.
Dr. Martinez, our principal, throwing us off. We're having a really fun time here. Oh.
It is the Friday. Whoa, that was really loud.
That was very loud.
It is the Friday going into spring break.
So we're ready.
Mm-hmm.
We are
everybody's
ready.
a little jazzed.
A little bit. So, just a reminder, our purpose for the podcast here is to give parents and the community members an opportunity to have some fun and get to know us a little bit while learning about conscious discipline and the 10 chapters in a way that is fun and hilarious and all those things. So, before I go any further, though, we would like to take a second and introduce our guests for this week. So we have Mrs. Kristen Parmelee, and then we have Mrs. Sarah Johnson joining us today. Thank you guys for taking the time, especially rescheduling a little bit, so we really appreciate it.
No problem.
So here's what we're going to do. So, Kristen, you're first. We want you to introduce yourselves. So 1 minute intro of who you are, your connection to LaVille, and if you could start a rumor about yourself, what would it be?
Ooh. Well, I am Kristen Parmelee. I am currently a 5th grade teacher. I have been at LaVille for 5 years, I don't remember. I've kind of been all over the place. I started in the health office, and I was a special ed aide, 4th grade, now 5th grade. And I was LaVille mama before that, so I've kind of been all over.
Yeah.
A rumor, I don't like rumors.
A positive rumor.
If I had to start a rumor, I would say I am a secret millionaire. But I stay at LaVille because I love the kids so much.
Aww. I love that. Awesome. All right, Sarah, same for you. 1 minute of who you are, your connection to LaVille, and the rumor you would start about yourself.
So I'm Sarah Johnson. I am a LaVille mom to 4 children, one being a senior and graduating in May.
Congratulations.
And I'm also a substitute. I've been a substitute for a few years here. A rumor is that I have eyes in the back of my head, only because it's a real rumor that we started when our kids were little. And they believed it, I think, until they were way too old to believe it. And they would examine my head, but they swore they were there. So.
But they can pop out any moment.
Exactly, when you need them. So, I mean, it would be helpful with other students, too. I mean,
Absolutely.
I see you.
We can always see you. All right, co-hosts, friends.
I want to go first.
You go first.
Yeah, you do.
I'm going to go first, and then you're going to be mad at me that I went first.
You're gonna overstep my
This is why we can't have anything nice.
Are you going to answer the way you told me you were going to answer?
Oh, for sure. I didn't think of anything else.
Cool. The rumor I would start about myself is that I'm actually Jennifer Lawrence's cousin.
I could see that.
Yeah.
It's plausible, actually.
Exactly. I like to think that her and I would be like really good friends if we met in real life.
Similar personality.
Same sense of humor.
100%, but also like I just want to be her. So
Your voices are a little similar too. Like there's a meme of her
now
that
he's
I
mad at me.
frequently hear your voice in. I always think of you when she does that.
I used to wear a side braid when my hair was longer, and like before I had children, I used to braid my hair like a lot, one long braid. So it actually started as a joke. Somebody called me Katniss Everdeen, and they're like, "Wait, you're actually a lot like her." And I was like, "We could be friends."
There's like a short video. She's like, "What do you mean?" And I hear your voice every single time.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right? It's a thing. Okay.
I think mine's better than yours.
Can't unsee it now.
Well,
Right, Ernesto.
I know. I'm not fun anymore. Mine was going to be when we had our pre-production meeting. Will Ferrell's my dad, because it was a joke I had with a previous coworker, and I even had the bobblehead on my desk. Because who wouldn't want Will Ferrell as their dad?
Be fun.
Yeah,
And mine.
that's all I got today.
And my rumor is nothing like any of yours, because my rumor would be that someone has paid for us to start my possum sanctuary.
Oh.
And that they're
Fully
ready
funded.
to fully funded
I can't
possum
even believe you
sanctuary.
What
just
are
put
we calling
yourself back out there
did.
I
to bring
fully
this
embraced
back
it.
up.
I fully embraced it.
It wasn't fully explored in the last episode, so
It wasn't fully explored. You don't
Listen,
think?
it
I
doesn't
thought
have
we
to be a
explored it
possum.
in depth.
What are we naming it?
Give me a minute. It's going to take me a minute.
Yeah.
But anyway, it doesn't just
Give
have
her
to be
time.
possums. Any sort of wildlife creature I will accept. I have one animal that I won't, but I'm not giving you guys that power to know what animal I don't like.
No
So
more ammo.
that's where we're at. But you know what is way cooler than all that? We need to take a pause because
do.
so many of us have given our answers. But Ernesto, we're not ready.
There is one more
ahead.
person.
Go ahead.
And we're going to do this special today. So last week we started with the headphones so we could talk to Scotty.
Yeah.
But he's back there and we can't see Scotty. So we thought that we would help everybody see Scotty while Scotty is answering his question. So Scotty, what's
Give
the
us
rumor
your
you
answer.
excited about yourself?
Y'all are ridiculous.
We know.
And the rumor would be that I indeed do not know.
Oh, the song we were just talking about.
my gosh.
So we were just talking about a song called Scotty Doesn't
Can't.
Know.
Don't say it.
And that,
We're going to keep that for future things. Anytime we need Scotty's
input.
or something where we need it, we're just going to bring
Scotty,
these on
also,
out.
you should know these are like a particle board. It's the material is hard. They're legit. It's not just paper.
Those might come up missing.
I will keep it with me forever so that you
My
cannot take
office
them.
is
I
locked.
have to pry 'em for my cold, dead fingers.
Love it. All right, friends, back to reality. So, with us being in episode 6, we need a recap for sure. So, the first 3 episodes, we reviewed conscious discipline as a whole. So, the intro, we did the brain states, I did the school family. Then we went to the power of perception and the skill of composure with Dr. Martinez. Then last week, we talked about the power of attention and the skill of assertiveness. And Lisa, do you want to give us a brief overview?
Yeah, I had a small panic forgetting that I was going to have to do that, but good thing for me, I had my points from last episode. So just 3 points from chapter 5. What we focus our attention on, we will get more of. What is that chatter? Meaning, what I choose to pay attention to, I'm going to notice more, and that's going to make big changes in my perspective and my happiness. Assertiveness teaches others how to treat us. What we will allow will continue. And clear, vigilant communication should focus on what we want, not what we don't want. I'm going to leave
Well
it at
said.
that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So this is leading up to now power number 3. So the power of unity and the skill of encouragement. We are now in the connection section of our book. So we've gone from the safety from the last 2. Now we are in connection. At the very top of the chapter, it says in beautiful bold letters, encouraging children to help create a sense of belonging in which the intrinsic desire to be of service outweighs the attention-seeking behaviors. And I thought that was such a beautiful way to encompass what we are trying to do here. So, the power of unity shines a light on a simple notion that while we are uniquely made, we are also interconnected and we are part of something bigger. Dr. Becky uses the body as an example. So think of us all like an individual cell. We're all representing different cells because we all have different things that we are able to do, things we're good at, things we're not good at. And the body is made up of different cells. If we were all the same cell, if we were all a brain cell, nothing else would be functioning, right? Or if like Lisa's an eye is the eye, an eyeball, and I am over here in ears, and I don't want to work with her. The body doesn't work like that. So we all need to work together to do the things that we do well, and we are uniquely designed for, but also working together to make it a better place. You look like you had a thought.
No, it was inappropriate, so I kept it in there. But I thought you were going to say
it up.
something. I would like some positive reinforcement for that.
You did it.
Good
You did it.
job.
You did it.
Thank you.
You did it.
You did it.
I thought you were going to say something different,
You did it.
and then you didn't, so it was good.
Okay.
We recognize
So-
that you did it. Yes.
I'm proud of you.
Just genuinely, she said
Just-
this was,
yeah,
go
just
ahead,
okay. It's okay.
Proceed.
Okay. So, the power of unity is expressed through the school family, which I talked about in episode 3. The school family aims at creating a compassionate school climate that is scientifically and practically designed to help all students. So, not only those that are hurting and feeling really disconnected, but also just all the students as a whole to contribute to the better good, right? So, if you know me well enough, you would know that I am a big musical fan. I love all things musical.
What's your favorite musical?
We're gonna get to it. I'm gonna tell you. We're gonna tell you. Right.
right.
Right. now.
You're going to ask everybody what their favorite musical is?
I'm not, but now I will.
Okay.
So, big musical fan. And if I'm not doing something that involves listening to people talk or me physically talking, I'm listening to music of some sort. I was driving back to the school, and I was listening to Wait For It from Hamilton, one of my favorites.
That's my fave.
Love Hamilton. My favorite is Wicked, but I have a second favorite that is very close to it. Okay, I'm going to pause because I want to know what your favorite is, because I'm not going to be able to. Go ahead.
The one and only Sound of Music.
Not for me.
No, not
What?
no.
Listen and we don't judge.
Sorry.
Except I do.
A little?
I was judging a little bit. I apologize.
I'll accept all of that, and I will take the heat, and I stand by it.
Hey, that's all that matters is you like it.
I don't know if I'm qualified to make a favorite.
You are.
No, I don't know that I'm qualified.
You're not
You don't have
You've
one.
never
Like, I don't watch
You've never
musicals.
watched
I
a
mean, I've seen
musical?
Hamilton.
Have you seen Sound of Music?
Mamma Mia.
Scotty's dancing.
Are you doing Grease Lightning. Okay,
Oh,
so we are
Grease.
doing.
I really
Scotty
enjoyed
says
the Book of
Grease.
Mormon years ago when I saw it in Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
Maybe
go
you're
with
more
that.
of a
Book
high
of
school
Mormon.
musical kind of guy. Okay. What about you guys?
I just told you.
She said
Sorry, Hamilton.
She's a Hamilton fan. It is a close tie between Phantom of the Opera. I've seen that actually on Broadway. It was beautiful. And Wicked is still like the best.
I saw Wicked on Broadway in New York, and it was the most magical moment.
Fantastic.
I saw
So
Beauty
good.
and the Beast on Broadway. I forgot I did that. I liked
that good?
I liked that too.
Awesome. So, but I love the soundtrack from Hamilton, and I was listening to Wait For It, and I was feeling kind of inspired by what we were talking about, but then he starts going the wrong way. And so I'm like, man, and I was typing up the script for this whole thing, and actually Dr. Martinez walked in and was like, why don't you use Wicked? Because we love Wicked.
I know nothing
but
about Wicked.
Other than that, I love it. I
It's
love
so
Wicked.
good.
I've seen the new one 18 times already. Like, I love it.
I have a fear of Wizard of
fantastic.
Oz, so I can't get
It's
into
different.
Wicked. I
I
watched
promise
it,
it's different.
but I am creeped out by Wizard of Oz, so I just don't like it.
But
Weird connection.
fair.
But
as much as I wanted to use Wicked, I couldn't, because there is a song that outshines all of them. It is not a super popular musical. It is called Dear Evan Hansen. The song that I'm going to quote in a second is my why for being a school counselor, and just my hope for people. But it is a story of a teenage boy who's struggling with social anxiety. In this song, it's called You Will Be Found. He writes a speech after a friend dies, and this song emerges, and it's beautiful. If you plan on watching this, because there is a movie from 2021, just know that there are some other things in it, and you might want to look at it prior to just watching it at home with kids. So anyway, so in the song, You Will Be Found, the main theme says, even when the dark is crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, because you'll reach up and you'll rise again. If you only look around, you will be found. Those words are written on my wall in my counselor's office. When I think of unity, I think of our community and just a hope for our school. I really want a community that when you just look around, that there is someone that will help you. When I think of kids who are wishing each other well, when I think of just being in a place where you are just loved and cared for at a school, I think of this song. And so I just needed a human connection there with that. So yeah, there we are. When we think about unity, though, there is this traditional way where we talk a lot about like being special, and there's a really big difference between being special and being unique. I'm pretty guilty of this, right? I ask kids all the time, like, what makes you special, or what are you really proud of? Like, what are things that you're good at? And sometimes that can build up their self-esteem or can make them feel really good, but there's also this inadvertent focus that can be competitive, and then we're seeing them as like better than, or I'm not as good as. And so that can also become their identity, where they think that those things that they are good at make up only who they are. And there's so much more to kids than just those things. So the power of unity focuses on this question: how can I be giving? It also extinguishes the idea of judging behaviors as good or bad, which is really difficult, but rather we're doing really well, or somebody's needing help. In schools, the children who are good get rewarded, and then the bad kids get punished. There is a clear divide here. This makes us forego connection for those competition moments where I'm the best at this. Rather, when we ask, how can I be giving, we are creating a non-judgmental space where we offer safety and connection. And when misbehavior does happen, it's a call for help and maybe even some practice rather than seeing it as disrespect. So, Dr. Becky discusses how specialness is the opposite of unity, and I appreciated the uniqueness in each other. You know, we can all appreciate that I'm different from Lisa, who's different from Dr. Martinez, and we together make up just this fun team, right? So we need to be able to choose to see it in that way versus that we're all a little different and it's fun and it's hilarious. Okay, sorry guys. So I wanted your thought on this. So growing up, I heard a lot of negative stuff about participation ribbons, and when I was thinking about when kids are being seen as special and we're doing all those things, I don't know, do you guys feel like I got way off script, guys?
It is the Friday before spring break.
It is, and there's a lot of noise going on out in the hallways. I'm having a hard time focusing. When we have kids see the best in themselves and making their worth about those things rather than just being one part of them, or just thoughts on participation trophies and ribbons in general. When they aren't being able to use that skill or talent that they are being seen as special for, who are they? Like, what do you guys think about all of that? Do you know what I'm asking?
I think kind of. For me, it's not necessarily how you perform on something or like what your job title is. I think as a parent, this is especially tricky to really teach our kids who they are their characteristics and their values and their foundation. It's not necessarily like a product that they can produce, like a sports skill, or who they are as a professional. And I think educators are especially guilty of this, of like when somebody asks you to tell you about themselves, you're like, I'm a teacher, or I'm a counselor, I'm a principal. So that's the first identifiable factor we give. But there could be at any time a day where our child wakes up or that we wake up and we're no longer able to do that, right? And then what happens is a loss of identity because I've put my whole identity into my profession instead of like these qualities that I innately possess. And so transferring that to like our kids as a parent, like I don't want... And this is hard because you want to celebrate like their gifts and their talents, but I don't want my daughters to grow up to be like, I'm a soccer player, right? Because they could get in a car accident and not be able to walk. And so then all of a sudden, not only are they dealing with the trauma of the car accident or whatever they experience, but also a whole loss of identity, which just opens a door for some significant mental health concerns. So if we can basically just like reroute that into like you are these traits, you are these values, you are these feelings, that's your identity, not something that can easily be taken away. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, absolutely. And we can keep going on that. Whatever.
Well, and I think something that stuck out to me was the inner voice, which we've talked about before. And we've talked about the noticing versus judgment statements. But the way we talk about ourselves to ourselves is the way we are going to continue to live out those thoughts. And so as educators, as parents, the way we speak to students, especially when they're making poor choices, is only going to reinforce that inner voice that they have about themselves. And so it's important in those poor choice moments that we are still encouraging students, not bringing them down. Right, so avoiding the judgment statements, but making it very objectable and noticing statements.
I just recently actually read something somewhere that was like, kids believe what they overhear. And I was like, ooh, I gotta be careful about that, because when I think my daughter's out of earshot or when I think she's not paying attention, I'll be like, oh, this one, she's had a rough morning. So then, like, she's going to internalize that, and she's like, yeah, I had a rough morning. And that's what the adults around me expect. That's my Busha and Jaja think that I need to behave in this certain way because I heard mom say I had a rough morning. And that's, you know, if you're listening to any of the other episodes, you know that we have rough mornings Monday through Friday.
What about you guys? Any thoughts?
So I was kind of going back to the part where you said, oh, I'm a teacher. I came thing that came to my mind is we had a meeting, and we had a lady, she said, well, I'm just a grandma. And I'm like,
yes.
okay, but you're not just a grandma. And this can be go with anything. You're a grandma, but you're also a mother. You're a friend. You are kind. There are so many things that you can add on to people and not just make it one part of your identity like you guys were saying. So that's kind of what came into my mind is you're not just one thing. You're made up of so many things, like a big puzzle. So that's kind of what came into my mind with that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Only saying one diminishes the others.
Right.
But then, like, what is the appropriate response when somebody's like, tell me about yourself?
No.
Well,
How long you got time for?
Right.
I'm a Capricorn.
I'm an Enneagram 7, Sagittarius.
I'm a 2.
I was just thinking like how you're talking about values, the strengths of your child versus just their skills. Like it gives such an opportunity if you're focusing on teaching them you're kind, you're loving, all those good qualities, because they can use those to help to brighten other people's lives or
Exactly.
just being an example to someone else, and they're going to want to copy those positive strengths versus if we focus on soccer skills, but what on the field do you bring to your team? Are you the leader? Are you being positive, or are you bringing negative? Like
Are you
there's
encouraging
exactly
people?
there's so many things that we can look at versus just the skills at what they're good at, like the participation trophy. Like, yeah, you participated, great, but who is the kind one? Who encouraged them? And
Right. And I think with the participation question, like, they may have participated, but they didn't give their best effort.
Exactly.
I'm way more worried about whether she was like invested and put forth attention and effort to the task than whether she was just simply present
Exactly.
to participate. There's a
Definitely.
difference, right? I would prefer to honor effort if I had to,
Yes,
to award effort.
And then how did you as an individual bring the team together or bring the classroom together? And so like how can those gifts be utilized to help others?
But also like reflecting on themselves, right? Like you showed great effort. How did that make you feel? Like did you like it? Like did you like the way it made you feel to give that much effort? Because when you put effort into something, you're going to get so much more out. So they're naturally going to feel more success when they provide more effort. So really having them reflect intrinsically of like, all right, you gave 100%. How does that feel?
Absolutely.
and that feeling is their reward.
And that's how it should be, that intrinsic motivation rather than them getting candy at the end of the day or them getting iPad time, those kind of things. Like we want them to feel good about who they are and how they are helping whatever group that they're in, instead of like how are they individually getting it. It breeds this selfishness. And that's not what we're here for, because as a school family, we're here to build each other up and be here for each other.
Absolutely.
One thing I always ask in my class, are you proud of yourself? Are you proud of your classmates? So that's like something that I'm constantly asking them, just so they can think about how they were acting and how their classmates were asking, just how they feel about it as a whole, because it's important.
Absolutely.
I think one of the challenges was it talked about shifting from the mindset of me to the mind shift of we. And at home you're part of the bigger family. At school you're part of the bigger school family, and that's the challenge that we have. You were talking about the intrinsic motivation because all these years everyone's used
Hold on.
Motivation.
You said motivacation.
motivation.
You made up a wicked
Yeah.
word.
Remix.
Look it up. But doing it because it's what's best for the group or for the school or for the family, not because I'm going to get some candy out of it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't mean to call you out on that, but I
Yes,
would.
she did.
I would
She totally
She
did.
No, I would be a terrible co-host
You
if
would
I
be.
if I didn't.
Those are not
I would be
judging.
If I
disappointed.
didn't take advantage
noticed.
of opportunities.
She noticed.
She noticed
I
and
noticed that
judged.
you said motivacation.
She was giving us an example of what not to do.
Scotty, run the tape back.
We will now be utilizing that in the front office.
No, I put
Okay,
mine on the
anyway,
ground.
so
Bad choice.
did you guys know, maybe you did, I don't know, it seems like most common discipline practices involve exclusion, so being separated, right? So I'm thinking timeout, loss of privileges, they can't spend time with friends, those kind of things. Did you know that social and emotional pain is mediated, so it's felt and processed by the same neural systems that regulate physical pain? So those are in the same areas. Isn't that nuts?
Your brain is incredible.
So cool. So speaking of some brain stuff, in the book, it talks about the top-down brain integration. Is that funny?
I'm just laughing at Ernesto.
Just keeping it in my head.
Awesome. The lower brain system, so safety, connects to the emotion center of the brain, so that love and connection, they're going together to access the executive state. The higher systems are regulating the lower system, so they're all working together, which is really cool. So when we work on connection with each other and our children, oh no. We are rewiring and practicing willingness for impulse control, right? So we are practicing being willing to do things and impulse control, which is really, really difficult, especially for me right now because I don't have the chat up. We need to remember that children's brains are still growing. Right? No, I'm sorry, guys.
I need a computer with the chat.
No. So sorry, we have a chat with Scotty so that we can like tell him if something
Or if
comes
he needs
up.
to tell us
if he needs to
something.
tell us something. So there's some communication, and he just clarified the mistake that I caught that also made a mistake. So it's fine. Proceed.
So
Poor Kari.
we are they're doing it to the worst person, right? Like I have
This isn't personal.
no, like I have no like focus. So it's just I'm like, look, squirrel. So we are rewiring. Awesome. I love that. We are rewiring and practicing willingness and impulse control because kids' brains are growing and they're looking for the adult to download calm and support for them. So when we play like peekaboo and patty cake and things like with the little babies, we are creating connection, and it's face-to-face, it's high intensity, and the full focus between the two, which creates positive brain chemicals. We might call that something really cool. Miss Lisa Feitz, what might we call that?
Dopamine.
Yeah, but we're gonna joy juice. There we go.
Missed it.
She missed it. So
Stomach
it's
was
creating.
Oh my
It is.
goodness.
So joy juice.
That's
we talk
what
about it
that
in
was
conscious
for?
discipline.
Scotty, can you put joy juice on there when you
When you have a
edit?
second,
Can I whip it out?
It was a part of our PD. Oh gosh.
So
Dr. Becky talks a lot about joy juice in the videos.
Nice.
Oh
Yes.
Lord.
And she had a similar jug.
Oh.
and it's super cool. So I'm going to explain joy juice because we're getting all sorts of off topic today. So joy juice is positive brain chemicals like dopamine, which is for reward and pleasure, oxytocin, which is for bonding, and even opioids, which is like pain relief. Your brain makes those things, which I did not like fully understand, and it's really cool to like get to know your brain better, right? So children need that connection to feel safe and to feel loved. And when they're able to do that, they are able to learn. So what better gift to give the kids around us than our attention and our focus and connection with some joy juice. So there's that. Joy juice. Cheers.
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 So,
This is water.
yes. What are your thoughts on the phrase, that kid is just looking for attention, ignore them, or they're just looking for attention?
Oh, I have something to say on that.
Do it.
So I don't like it because yes, maybe they are looking for attention, but in my mind, the thing that comes to me is, what if the only connection they are getting that day is from me? What if that is the only positive response they're getting from an adult? So I'm like, yes, okay, they are acting a certain way, but why are they doing that? Why are they needing that connection from me? So yes, I'm going to handle whatever going on, but I'm going to give them what they need in that moment. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that makes sense.
It feels
when
negative.
I'm saying it, but
And you did a word switch there, which I think was important to point out. Attention versus connection, right? It's the connection that the child is seeking, not the attention
Right.
that the child is
Exactly.
seeking.
Yeah.
It is the connection that we all need.
yes.
There's usually like a emotion, they're missing something emotionally, they're just having a rough day, they need it. Like there's a reason they're acting out.
Right.
To me, it's not acting out, but that's how people look at it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, is that the case every single
No,
time?
but-
No, but
you also can't just
Often.
ignore it either.
Right.
Like,
Right.
Behavior is communication.
This is tricky for me from a clinical standpoint because I was trained in ABA, right? So for those of like people that aren't like in education and like kind of specialize in behavior, every behavior serves a function, right? We know that behavior is a form of communication. Within that communication and that function, one of the functions of behavior is gaining attention, right? It's attention-seeking behavior. So in order to diminish a behavior scientifically, you remove what's reinforcing it. Okay. And if you think about that, that makes total sense. I don't feed the behavior. I remove what they're seeking. But the strategies to do that are like very conscious discipline friendly, if you will. So if a parent, a teacher comes to me and they're like, they're doing all this for attention. They're doing it all for attention. One of the things that we'll typically do is figure out and we have ways to do this. Are they wanting peer attention or are they wanting adult attention? Those are two separate things, right? Peer attention is trickier for us adults to manage, but then it becomes a goal of satiating them on the attention that they're seeking in appropriate ways. So I know if a student's going to engage in problem behavior just to get my attention, I'm going to shower that student with more attention than they could possibly want. And I'm just going to engulf them in all the positive attention, because then they don't need to engage in the negative behavior to get that. So this portion of the chapter is tricky for me because I see behavior so clinically sometimes, but it really does all still work together. You just have to add a human and an empathy component, right? And you're absolutely right. Attention seeking because they're looking for a connection. Right. They have an unmet need that they are trying to access from you. So instead of completely just removing it, let's just give them all they can handle. You're already spending that much time with the student anyway.
Right. You're going to be with them either way, so make it positive.
Exactly. So
And maybe we'll see less of it as they get more of that love and connection in the first place.
That's the goal.
So when I worked at Bowen, I was really big into changing my words. And so maybe as you guys follow along, I used to call it support seeking because that's what they're wanting. Attention feels so negative.
But why are we taught that like wanting attention is a bad thing? Like at some point society has taught us that like being attention seeking or liking attention is bad. And I don't think that innately it is. Somebody just told us like that's a negative characteristic and you shouldn't want it at some point.
Just caught on.
I never thought about it like that actually.
Yeah. Why does it have to be bad? Yeah, right? It's a natural feeling to like that.
Right.
So
and it's like a baby, like they cry because they're needing attention, right? And so it's like how they're calling out for needing help.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so arbitrary, and we can change the narrative. We just have to decide to do that.
Absolutely.
Well,
So
according to Google AI, there is a difference between connection and attention. Connection involves genuine emotional closeness and meaningful interaction, whereas attention seeking often stems from a desire for external validation or affirmation.
I'm glad you read that because in my next paragraph, I'm going to say something very similar. Here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go. So attention is a call for help, right? Why are we ignoring that call? They're asking for help for a missing skill, or they're asking for co-regulation, which is involved with connection. Connection is a form of responsive attunement, and if we allow ourselves to be present, we are giving students and kids the gift to be together, and we're rewiring that brain for willingness to cooperate, and we're decreasing impulsive behaviors. Love that.
Love that.
Any thoughts before I move on to the skill of encouragement?
No, we've just got to model that, right? Like, I'm just thinking of like all the things that stand in the way of me modeling being responsive, like to my own kids, right?
That thing in my face all day long. My phone, yeah.
It's funny because at school, it's like it's easy at school, but from a home perspective, yeah, I'm the same way. I'll be on my phone. My little one could be right in front of me, but I'm like, oh, cool, scroll.
Yeah, you're playing by yourself. Let me take advantage of this.
It's totally different.
Yeah.
Even at home, though, you got like all your chores to do,
Right,
and you know you're in so many different directions, and it is hard to just stop what you're doing and just have that eye to eye, or
That
you know,
connection.
and it's difficult.
Yeah.
You have
And
to
when
make a
we're-
conscious decision to do it.
And when we are doing that, right, like if we're scrolling instead, you know, how often do like at least with my little guys, they start doing more of whatever, or they're doing it louder. So that they can get my attention. That look at me. And man, it is sometimes really hard because, I'm focused somewhere else, but they just truly want to be seen, and they deserve those moments too, right?
Absolutely.
So when we see misbehavior, our first reaction is to respond emotionally, right? How do you see yourself changing this as we have been going through conscious discipline, or maybe how we want to be different, knowing what we know now?
Well, for me, I kind of followed a lot of this even before I really knew what it was. I don't typically respond emotionally. Not saying I never do, but I typically don't respond emotionally. I'm able to think about it for a second and then respond. Even if there's something crazy going on, I'm not going to just, lash out. And I'm hoping as we're doing this, where some people might need to work on that, it will continue to grow and it will be more of a systemic thing and a more school-wide thing, because that's what these kids need. Us responding in anger isn't going to help anything.
It just breeds anger.
Yeah. It's just, fighting fire with fire, and that's not going to help anybody. It's not going to help that student. It's not going to help your classroom, yourself. So hopefully it's just going to keep catching on and keep growing, and we'll learn from it. The children will learn from it. And hopefully it'll just keep going.
Well, and I think, like you said, you got to take time to process before you respond. I mean, whether it's a student or your own kids, if you just immediately respond, you're going to regret what comes out of your mouth. I mean, you're going to be like, I'm so sorry. I'm the one who got angry now. Like, then you're backtracking, and then you've completely lost that opportunity to teach them the right way to handle a situation. So it's about taking that time and fully understanding what is going on around that misbehavior.
Right.
It's hard, and I think it depends on the situation. Like, if there's a lot happening, it's easy to default. Like the awards yesterday, Nick and I are handing them out, and we're like, good job, and I'm like, oh, not supposed to say good job. You did it. But then that doesn't feel right for the situation. So we settled on well done, and then the student's name as they're passing us. We thought that was a nice compromise. Earlier in the week, I was working on something, and it was at the end of the day, and I sent it to the group, and Lisa responded, Dr. Becky would say. And I was like, yes, you're right. I did not phrase that in the best way. And she helped me with a better phrase.
I give an example. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we come across that, but I think that's part of the growth and the change is when we are helping each other with it, when we are in those moments and we aren't using it, because it does take a lot. So I shared with the group, my brother had texted me, my older brother. He had finally watched the first podcast.
David.
We hope you're still watching.
Shout out, David.
Shout out, David. He said he's going to use some of the questions for his weekly youth group check-ins. But he shared a couple other quotes about change, because he had heard the quotes we used. And one of them was that there are two things that everybody hates: change and the way things are. And then there's no improving the future without disturbing the past. So even when we want to change, we don't want to change because we don't want to disturb the past. So it's a hard cycle, no matter what it is you're trying to change.
It's hard balance.
This is especially tricky for me as a parent, not so much like as a professional at school, and we've talked about that. It is easier to be a professional with your students whose kids they're not your kids.
And you don't go home
and
at
you
the
don't
end of the
go
day
home
with
at the
them.
end of the day, right? But like when safety is a concern, all bets are off for me, right? Like I am 100% going to respond in an emotional way, 100% of the time, I think. So I will work on this, but like I almost in my mind as I'm thinking, Sarah, you said something like you have to pause and take into consideration. This is an example. My girls, okay, I've got a 3-year-old and an almost 1-year-old, and I was in the living room, maybe 20 feet away and just slightly around the corner. So they were out of my visual, and I heard the baby let out a cry that was like, I'm hurt. Like it's a hurt cry. And so I was on the FaceTime with my sister, and so I popped right up, and as I round the corner, Stella has some sort of rope wrapped around the back of her sister's neck. Okay, it wasn't wrapped around the front. It's not like a strangulation type of thing. But she was kind of yanking on her. Okay, and so Evelyn was like, that, you know.
She should be.
As I round the corner and I see that, I just like lost it. Right, like I couldn't see the front of her, so I didn't know, right, the extent of what
she
was
was
happening.
okay.
Exactly. But I yelled and came in there kind of hot, and I said, what are you doing? Like, we don't, and I didn't say it like that. It was much louder and more aggressively. But I was like, we don't put things around anybody's neck, not our own, not anybody else's. And Stella looked at me, purely innocent, and she said, I was pretending she was a cow and I was walking her. And she saw absolutely no issue with what she was doing, right? And Evelyn was fine. There was a little red mark on the back of her neck. Thank goodness that nobody called DCS, and there was a ligature mark on my kid's neck, right, around the back, because she gave her some rope burn. Come to find out, it's a rope from a pair of shorts Stella has, that's used as a belt. I don't know. I don't know how she got it. I don't know when she got it. Kids are terrorists. But the fact of the matter is, I didn't have time to pause and take into consideration anything else. And the situation required such an elevated emotional response, because I need, and I think we would all agree, we need our kids to take safety things really important. If your kid yanks out of your hand in a parking lot and almost gets hit by a car, you're going to come back with a really elevated response, so they understand the magnitude of what they just did to keep them safe. So I do think that there is a place,
time and a place for
a time and a place. No one was injured in this story. Everyone was fine. I am a good parent, I promise, and I do watch my kids, but it is especially tricky with a 3-year-old who sees nothing wrong with that, right? And then she says to me, at the fair, I saw Connor, and that's my nephew, walk his cow on a trailer, and it had a rope around its neck. And I was like, you are absolutely correct. Don't ever do it again.
Your sister's not a cow.
She's not a cow. So I don't know. That was just a connection there of sometimes it's got to be big.
And I think it's really important to remember and identify with everybody here that those emotional moments when safety happens is superhuman and super normal. So, but sometimes when it's not safety and our brains respond that way,
we think it is.
Yes, and so there are times where there is a bear in the room and we respond in that way, but sometimes there is no bear in the room,
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you for that fun story.
I think when I told the story to Scotty in the tech office, I think I even did some motions. It may have been a different story too. I think I was down on the ground telling a different story. Was it that one? Yeah.
I wasn't
Were you the
expect a
cow?
story
I was the
for
cow.
Were you the
without
cow?
motions.
Okay, cool.
I was doing some modeling on the in the
That's
IT.
great.
We
That
wouldn't
helps.
expect anything different from
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I think he even said, Lisa, you should tell that story on the podcast and get on the floor and demonstrate. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. But I
Well-
did tell the story.
Surprise, he's got a camera in there, so he's going to put that video on the blooper.
For the
Yeah, he was
record,
already
why don't I
recording.
have a Scotty head?
I want one now just so we can
Right?
walk through. Every time a kid wants to go to tech because it's broken, I'm like, here, take the Scotty pass.
Yes, this is the Scotty
Scotty
pass.
pass.
Scotty says,
We should get all the teachers Scotty
Scotty
passes.
Then there'll be no question on whether kids are going,
Because we've got the
100%
Scotty
what they
passes.
need.
That's a great idea.
So fun. So when he just cleared his throat so loud, it was so distracting.
Get on the
Are you
microphone.
okay?
there he is.
Yeah, I was drinking something that went
Scotty
down the
talking.
pipe.
Yeah, okay. Almost choked. Got it. So when kids follow a command with compliance, with kindness, with helpfulness, we need to shine a light, so that perspective on what we want with details. So no general praise. We don't love that. So I also had a story. So funny that we were telling stories at the same time. So much smaller, and I also texted the group. I don't remember where we were. I think we were at the doctor's office, and Bennett saw some trash, and he threw it away. And I said, "You did it!" I said, "You saw trash on the floor, and you picked it up, and you put it away. That was really helpful." And Bennett's response was, "I did it!" And it was so cute seeing my almost 2-year-old feel super proud of himself for helping. It was just really fun. So, but we need to not only just say, "Hey, you did it," but they need to know why we are saying those things. So the more clear we are and what we are wanting them to do, the better. So when we think about unity and those things, we need to notice their strengths. So for example, saying to a kiddo, maybe at home, you are really great at putting the dishes away. Would you be willing to show your brother how to do that so that you guys can do the job together?
Kids love that. Kids
Yes.
love to be the teacher.
Yes, and that's going to show them that not only are they doing amazing, but then you're also teaching the other kiddo how to do that same job, and they're working together, and it's just a lot of good stuff. So we love that. So notice the kiddos' strengths, and then also like utilize those to help them build each other up and encourage them. Just as a connection, also using counterproductive praise is not super helpful, because if the student is hearing, you're always so helpful. You're a perfect little angel. You're the best at this. It's going to lead to constantly for them to either internally question or hearing it out loud. Did I do that right? Or maybe they'll shut down, or they'll start doing the opposite, because if they don't do it right once, then who are they, right? That identity piece. And they don't like that pressure. It's hard. And so we want to make sure that we are being thoughtful in the moment on how we are praising them for what they're doing in the moment, not always, because I'm not always helpful. I am helpful a decent amount of time, but I'm not always helpful. And so if I'm all of a sudden not seeing myself as helpful, that might start to have me question my identity. And I'm an adult, imagining how a student or a kid is feeling when that thing happens. It's a lot. So let's see. Other things, so rituals. We have so many different rituals here at school, from our good morning routines to like where we're connecting, we're saying we're saying good morning, we're doing the high fives or hugs or whatever they're doing if they are choosing those things. We're doing one-on-one connections with brain breaks. We're doing the wish well boards and the kindness trees. We have friends and family boards. So note, if you're listening to this, it is almost the end of the year. We will still be doing this next year. If your teacher doesn't have a picture of your child with their people, so maybe it's their family or their friends or whatever, we love having those in the classroom. So if you don't have one,
I could take a picture of
let's do
Scotty.
it. It would be together. So
You can sit in my windows so everyone can see them in the hallways.
that would be so great.
Yeah.
What are some things you've implemented to use when we think of encouragement in the classroom or at home?
So for me, it's not really one specific thing. I try to make it a part of my culture all the time. And it's
That's why we chose you.
Thank you. It's little things like I'm putting sticky notes on their computers with little positive notes, or if they're going up to the board, and I expect the same thing from their classmates. Their classmates are encouraging at the same time. We're cheering them on, even if they get something wrong. Like, I'm so proud of you for trying hard, even though you got it wrong. When they're leaving every day, I'm like, all right, love you, see you tomorrow. So it's just little things throughout the day, all the time. It's just my expectation for myself and for the kids in my classroom, because they need it.
Absolutely.
Like, in all ways that I can. It doesn't have to be big. It's just kind of little things throughout the day.
Those little moments.
Yeah.
It's important to recognize those little moments.
It is. And to them, it's
Bigger.
more important. Yeah, exactly.
For like our house, like with my own kids, I've learned from myself that I was not like being specific to my kids. Like, if I would just say, I'm proud of you. Oh, yeah, great, proud of me.
For what?
Yeah. And like, yeah, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why would I not tell you, hey, you did XYZ this time, and and you didn't complain, you did great. Like, that was the biggest one. And then I'm watching my kids, half the kids are starting to like talk to each other positively like that too.
Aww.
Oh, look what you did. And it's like, oh, that's nice.
That is great.
So-
We love that.
One thing that I have done always, actually, even prior to conscious discipline, is using students' names
Yes.
when I greet them or when I see them. If you listen to me in the hallway or anywhere, if I know the student's name, I'm always gonna say it. I was taught early on that like there are a huge majority of kids that they'll go all day long and no one says their name, right? Like, think about the kids that wake up in the morning and mom and dad are already gone, and then they get on the bus and the bus driver doesn't say their name, and then they sit down by themselves and they ride the bus to school, and when they come in the door, and we know what the morning looks like, there's just this huge influx of students, right? And so it is very possible for them to walk into their classroom and sit down and start their day and no one said their name. they could go all day long and no one says their name. So that's been huge of just like a validation of like who they are and I see you.
And I know your name.
Yeah, and I think I even presented that in a PD about reinforcement of like when you're greeting kids, when you're calling on kids, when you're giving them reinforcement, adding their name to it makes a huge impact and a huge connection. So
I'm still doing that. I'm at my door still every morning, whatever. It's usually hugs because my group is huggers, but hugs and good mornings, the student fist bump every morning.
Yes.
I try to add their name to it too.
Yeah.
So that is big.
And that's they feel truly known. Like when somebody says hi to you and they use your name and they use eye contact, like they know that they are a part of this. You know, they're not just one other kid just floating through.
Yeah, they're actually being recognized.
Yeah. I do the same thing at arrival and dismissal. I read somewhere like the goal should be that a student gets 7 hellos before they make it to their classroom.
Yeah.
So when I'm outside, it's like I probably say hello 1,000 times a day, and using the names whenever possible too.
Yeah, when you know them.
And when I walk through the halls trying to make sure we catch kids, I would rather have a kid hear their name 100 times in positive ways than not hear it at all. So
Yeah,
we're going to
absolutely.
continue. Awesome. So just an overview for parents and our friends, our listeners at home. So encouraging uniqueness in the home as a family unit. Think about how each of us can be, I worded this so terribly. Think about how we can help each other. So when we are thinking about the things that we're really good at, how can we be helping each other together? That was
we
very
add value?
confusing. Thank you for picking me up there.
Yeah.
Number 2, encouragement in things that you want to see happen more often. So thinking about where we put our attention with specific encouragements. You did it. You saw this need. You helped us make that happen. 3, we need to be consciously aware of our tendencies to be judging others rather than being present in the moment. Those see me kids, they just want to be noticed and encouraged. So let's make sure that we're doing that. Observing our willingness or how resistant we are to seeing misbehavior as a call for help. That can be really difficult when it feels like an attack, but it is not. And then number 5, children love to be helpful. Help them find ways to be of service in the family. How can we be helping each other? So any final thoughts before we move forward and end our things today? It was all really great. Awesome. So,
Questions?
yes, so we have Mr. Scotty. Could you remind us of the email if you guys as parents have questions or things that you want us to just talk about or answer?
I'm at the Wheel of Mischief also.
Well, we're going to do that first.
Smell.
It smells like
Came from
glue.
overseas.
Thank you, guys.
It smells like print.
oh boy.
Dye
Okay.
Daddy, you have a weird smell.
Stuck in a bag. for a long time.
LV Mindful Mischief
LV Mindful Mischief
at
at
unorth.k12.in.us.
That's
it.
And if you give us some questions or some feedback, whatever, we will be able to answer those when we see them.
There's also a form on the webpage.
There is a form on the webpage, and we're so excited to be able to see those hopefully roll in. You look like you have thought.
No, I'm just really excited about that and like getting feedback from people who are listening and engaged. If you have genuine questions, we'd be really excited to answer them. I think it's cool.
It's going to be great. So, hey, guess what? We have the Wheel of Mischief here. So what you're going to do is you're going to spin the wheel, and whatever it lands on is the question that we are going to use. This feels like it's, okay, well, we're just not going to play with that.
Am I spinning?
Yep, you can spin first. Ready?
All right.
You're going to have to
Come on,
hold
Sarah.
it. It's too much.
Question 9.
Number 9.
I'll do it. Who's your favorite Disney princess and why?
Ooh, I like this question.
I'm distracted by Scotty over
He
there.
would like you to move that.
Can I think for a second?
You don't want that in front of her face?
Oh, blocking my face.
Oh, gee.
It's okay.
That's the one, Carrie.
Am I breaking things? My favorite
Fall apart
princess.
in all sorts of ways.
I'm
Got it
going to
off
say Princess Anna because she was kind of sassy and doing her own thing, minus the trying to get married and meeting the first,
Prince Hans,
Yeah.
you turd.
Yeah, but I liked her
real-
spunk.
Spunky.
We love that.
Spunky.
Thank you.
Is it my turn? Sorry. I was
Don't get
fixing
married
it.
on
The first date. That's weird.
Well, not even the first date, just first interaction.
They don't do that.
Number 7.
Name 5 uses for a stapler other than stapling.
Staple Wars. Have you ever seen The Boys? And they are just like.
I feel like that's stapling though, because you.
But they're not.
But they're not. They're
Okay.
shooting. They're shooting them.
That's one.
That's terrifying.
4 more.
You got to sew your pants. You just, you
Okay.
hem it.
I've had to staple a flip flop once.
Oh, that's another. That's
It doesn't
or you
work
can fix
very
a
well.
shoe. I'm out of ideas, guys.
They would be horrible eyelash extensions.
You could use it as a hammer, the stapler.
Smart.
Yeah, that's a solid one.
That's
Right?
Yeah.
If you wanted to crush some crackers to make meatloaf,
Are you trying to say you did that? It was very specific.
Meatloaf.
She's not
Not even meatloaf.
not saying she
She's
did.
not saying it.
Crackers and meatloaf.
have you ever made meatloaf? You should put crackers in meatloaf. It keeps it moist.
Oh, I do.
That's a
I do
personal
rice.
tip. You're
I do
welcome,
rice.
everyone.
That word is not popular.
In your meatloaf?
You're using crackers?
My mom always uses crackers.
Townhouse crackers.
Yeah, I use rice because it
happening
holds
here?
moisture and it adds moisture.
So all the things are holding moisture, but we're having a problem here. So we're gonna
Okay, what were we talking about? What were we doing?
staple.
Add townhouse crackers to your meatloaf.
Did we hit 5?
I have no idea.
think we're good.
I think
I think
we've,
we're
we've
good.
added
We're so
enough.
good.
We
If you ever
got
need to break a
sidetracked.
glass, you could throw it to break a glass. Yeah.
I'm not destructful, I guess. I didn't even
Yes.
come up with those. Sorry, I'm
Just
fixing
start
this while I'm
hitting
sitting here. It's so loose.
Just start hitting things with staplers, apparently.
Apparently.
Including meatloaf.
That could get dangerous. Well, friends, thank you again, Mrs. Parmelee and Mrs. Johnson, for joining us today. Thank you to my co-hosts, as always, for just having such a fun time and talking about this great stuff. And thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey and discussion with what conscious discipline looks like. So, thanks for tuning in for episode 6 for Mindful Mischief. Until next time,
Stay mindful.
Stay mischievous.
and stay connected. Bye, guys. Bye. Scotty.
God, I took everything I had not to say it.